I used to think being independent was a strength until I found myself in a crowded room, entirely alone, not because people hated me, but because they thought I didn't need them at all. Welcome to my channel. Today, let's decode how hyper-independence is sabotaging you. I used to do everything myself. Even if someone offered me help, I wouldn't take it. I would, however, help other people, but I would not accept help very easily. I would learn how to do something if I didn't know how to do it, and I would do it. And I thought for several years, for several decades, that was actually a good thing. Turns out not so much. That realization happened when one day I went to my classroom and I realized that all of my friends had already formed groups for a project, and each one had picked up a project already, and they were already ready with their material and what they would do, and they already knew who their teammates were. And surprisingly, no one had picked me, and I wasn't in any group. And when I went to my professor and asked, she said, just ask these girls to let you join them. I did. I went and asked them, can you take me in? I was a bit late. I didn't know. How did you all know? And they said, we knew because, they all told each other. So they all had told each other, and they had called up each other, and they had told each other that that we had to form groups and a project would happen, and we all had to pick a project, but no one had informed me. That left me devastated. I was like, why? When I asked all the girls why they didn't tell me, they said, oh, you already know everything. You're already self-sufficient. We thought you already knew. What I experienced that day was a classic painful manifestation of hyper-independence. When we decode this with a lens of psychology and philosophy, it reveals a very interesting paradox. The very trait you built to protect yourself has ended up isolating you. In psychology, hyper-independence is rarely a personality trait. It's not a personality trait. It is a defense mechanism. It's a trauma response. It often stems from early childhood experiences that people can't be trusted, they can't be relied upon. If you expect something from someone, then they'll expect a lot back from you. So you tend to just rely on yourself. You tend to learn everything by yourself and do it yourself. Also, sometimes asking for help is a sign of weakness. It could be dangerous, it could be unsafe, and it's often considered a burden to others. So many of us learn to be self-reliant to an extent that we become hyper-independent. You build a subconscious rule. If I do everything myself, then I'm in control, I'm safe, and I can never be disappointed by anybody. But here's the hidden trap that you experienced. By never asking for help, you have now projected an aura of self-sufficiency. You have become kind of a wall that nobody can penetrate anymore. You're self-sufficient. When people see someone who has it all together, they don't see someone who needs help. They see a wall. That you want to be left alone, that you probably don't want their help at all, and you probably don't think much of them either. That can be quite a negative thought for other people to have about you. Real connection with people requires reciprocity. And for that, you can't be completely self-reliant for everything. We are interdependent creatures in this world. We have to learn to depend on other people for certain things. Being independent is good, but being hyper-independent can actually leave you all alone in this world. When we refuse to accept help, we are inadvertently telling people that we are autonomous. By refusing help, you are denying people of the opportunity to be valuable to you, to be generous, to feel connected to you. See, true community isn't formed by perfectly independent people sitting next to each other. It's formed by people being messy, and there being friction, there being love, and there being true connection. Remember this, vulnerability is the currency of intimacy. Now, if I go back to my classroom, I was confused and hurt at that point in time. I didn't understand why they all did that to me, like everyone. And I didn't speak to them for a little while, of course, I was younger. However, this kept on happening. Throughout my life, there have been many instances where people just ignore me. They ignore me, they don't include me. And it's not that they don't like me, they love me a lot. They look up to me, in fact. They speak very highly of me behind my back. But when it actually comes to giving me information or to include me in things, they don't. And over the years, this happened when I was a teenager, but over the years I started observing, I started analyzing this. I started thinking, let me think about this. Why is this happening to me, and why is this every single time? And that's when I realized something. I was inside a feedback loop of self-isolation. I was somehow self-fulfilling a prophecy of being isolated. So my internal belief was that I'm entirely on my own because of all of my childhood experiences. So the way I behaved with people was that I withdrew. I was completely self-sufficient. So for them, I was acting self-sufficient. I didn't ask for help. What was people's perception? Oh, she wants to be left alone. She doesn't need us. The outcome was that people didn't include me. Hence, my reinforcement was, see, I told you I really am on my own. So this ended up being my feedback loop of self-isolation, and I was somehow self-fulfilling a prophecy of being isolated. One day when I went back home from my engineering college, a guest had come home and they complimented me for something. And I just rubbished it away. I was like, oh, because I can't handle a compliment. And I was like, yeah, no, it's perfectly fine. I mean, anyone can do it, you know. And an aunt who was sitting over there, she kept observing me. And she told me that, you know what, when a compliment is given to you, learn to accept it. Say thank you. Don't throw it back at their face. And I was like, no, auntie, but I can't accept a compliment. I find it very awkward to say thanks for a compliment. I go all jittery and I'm like, no, don't compliment me. And she was like, no, learn to accept a compliment, because when people compliment you and you throw it back at their face, it can be quite insulting. So don't do that. Say thank you. Accept a compliment. And that somewhere stuck in my head that I needed to change my own behavior. I needed to accept people's help, people's compliments, people's goodwill in order to be accepted by society. And this took me a little while. Even till today, I'm much better now. But there was a time in my life, in my teenage years and my 20s, that I could not accept a compliment. How many times have you complained that nobody is there for you, but then also actively rejected when someone has offered you help? For me, deciding factor came several years later. After I was married, my father-in-law said that asking for help, whether or not you need it, sometimes keeps those relationships alive. And that stayed in my head for a very long time. And I started to see that it was true. Asking for help when you need it actually is a sign of trust and confidence in the other person. And they feel, oh, this person values me. She needs me. I'm not saying that you should ask for help all the time when you don't need it. I think that would be wrong advice. And that would also put people off, constantly asking for help. And I think this is why most of us become hyper-independent, because when you've asked for help, people try to take off your arm. When someone gives a hand, they take off your arm. So these things do lead us to become sort of hyper-independent. We tend to think that let's just, do things on our own. But when you really need help, and if you are a hyper-independent person, and if you really need help, there is no reason for you not to ask for help. And if you do ask for help, and please do, it will show the other person that you genuinely care for them too, and that you see them as a friend. Framing help not as a sign of weakness, but as a relationship management. In psychology and sociology, it's called the reciprocity principle. It's a literal glue that keeps human beings together and connected. Benjamin Franklin famously suggested that if you want someone to feel closer to you and to like you, instead of doing them a favor, you should ask them to do you a favor. Now, I wouldn't suggest this to everyone, because many people do ask for help on a regular basis, and to constantly ask for help could be off-putting as well. But for people who are hyper-independent and who don't ask at all, this principle should be, you should think about this. When you refuse to ask for help, you are depriving people around you from the joy of contributing to your life. Asking for a small favor, even though technically you could have done it yourself, is just basically telling them that I trust you and I value your position in my life. By forcing yourself, by being vulnerable, you will create a community of people who genuinely like you, because you will find judgmental people here and you can filter them out. And what you'll be left with are genuine connections of people who genuinely like you and they like your vulnerable side. By being too hyper independent, you seem like a thick wall that nobody can penetrate, nobody can see through, nobody can see who you are, nobody knows who you are. Let me tell you one thing, the change doesn't happen overnight. It took me 30 years to get till here, that I could be confident enough now to be vulnerable, to pick up a phone call and ask for help, and to actually receive help in return, to also receive judgments in return, filtering out people and then creating a community of actually good people around me. It has taken me a while. It will take you a while too. Hyper independence isn't a superpower, it's a cage that we are building for ourselves. When we refuse help, we think we are protecting ourselves from rejection. However, we are rejecting everyone else. That's what's happening. True strength doesn't lie in carrying the weight of the universe on your shoulders. It lies in lowering your defenses and showing people how vulnerable you are. If you are one of those hyper independent people, this week's homework for you is that you will call any one friend of yours and say you need to talk to them and talk about anything that's troubling you, anything that has been giving you grief. Talk about it and see people will help you. So let's do that.